Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here. In today's video I thought we could check in on the series that I'm in the middle of. So I have been tracking number of books in a series that I've read since about 2023. I copied the template that a fellow YouTuber did, Book Roast I believe is their YouTube name. They had a really great template for, the title of the series, the author, the number of books in the series, or like a bunch of checkboxes, and if you DNF the series or completed the series. Now I will say, and then it auto calculates the number of series you have ongoing, DNF'd, and completed. I will say the one thing that I wish this tracker had was a marker to indicate if you were caught up with a series that is like still being published, or if you've completed a series that has already, all the books are published, if that makes sense. I want like a caught up checkbox or something like that. But other than that, I like this tracker. I've been using it for about 2 years, so let's do a check-in on the series that I have going on. So I have this in a couple of sections. The first chunk of books we're going to talk about are series that are complete and published. I just haven't gotten around to finishing them yet. The third and final book of the first Law trilogy is Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. I have 30 pages read of this book, but obviously that is not the whole book. I've read 2 out of 3 of this series. This is a great dark fantasy with surprisingly a great amount of humor and great characters. So I have this one. A book I do not own is the Great Coats series by Sebastian de Castell. I have read 2 out of the 4 books in this series, which is like a historical fantasy Three Musketeers inspired fantasy story. And I've read the first 2. They are fabulous. Not quite as dark as the first Law, but still a little darker. And I'm just waiting for my library hold to come in on that 3rd book. Then we have Breakaways by E.L. Massey. This is a romance series. Now the first 2 books in this series are one couple, which I have read. The 3rd book is a separate couple, and then I have not gotten to that 4th book in the series yet. So I've read 3 out of the 4 books in the series. I contemplated whether or not bringing up romance series, because romance series are usually like standalones, but the characters are connected, and that's why it's a series. I'm still counting it, so there you go. Breakaways is a contemporary hockey romance, queer, gay hockey romance series that I absolutely adore, and it's kind of bridges the gap between young adult and new adult. These characters are fairly young and there's no smut on page. I love these. They have so much heart and great found families. A couple of new additions to my series tracker is The World of the Five Gods by Lois McMaster Bujold. I read The Curse of Chalion by this author, loved it, definitely want to continue in this series. Now there's like 14 books in this series, but the first 3 books are full-length novels, and then the rest of the books of the series are novellas and short stories. So I'm committing to the first 3 books. We'll see if I read all those novellas. This is an excellent political fantasy with high stakes, great villains, and really great main characters to root for. Another new addition is the Gale Song trilogy by Shauna Lawless. This is a historical fantasy series. The first book is The Children of Gods and Fighting Men. This reads a lot like John Gwynne, which is why I liked it so much. Kind of a Viking-esque political fantasy following 2 women's perspectives, and one of them is kind of a villainess, and I love that for her. So I read 1 out of the 3 books in that series. I just completed the first book of the Dark Lord Davi duology by Django Wexler. The first book is How to Become the Dark Lord and Die Trying. This is a queer fantasy satire, I would say. So if you don't like horniness and boob jokes and kind of dumb pop culture references in your fantasy, maybe steer clear, but I thought this kind of was a hoot and a half and enjoyed my time reading it, so I will finish the duology. Then we have The Sworn Soldier by T. Kingfisher. Now, from my understanding, this is a trilogy, and I have the third book of the trilogy to read. The first in this series is What Moves the Dead, and I have read the second book in the series, and the third book is just out as of filming this, so I haven't quite gotten to that one yet. And I don't know if there will be more. It seems like technically she could continue writing Alex Easton forever, but as of what I know right now, I just have one more book to read in that series. That is a gothic retelling of an Edgar Allan Poe short story, The Fall of the House of Usher. That's right. My next section, we are going to be talking about our books series that I'm having second thoughts about. So I read Evocation by S.T. Gibson, the first book of this duology, and then I read the short story that is a prequel to this contemporary paranormal throuple fantasy, and that short story kind of soured me on the whole series, and so I don't know if I want to finish this, but I also only have one more book left. So this is one that I'm contemplating giving up on. We'll see when I can get the book from the library if I'm in the mood for it. But I did like this first one, so I'm trying to, balance those emotions. Then we have The Five Penalties by Marina Lostetter. Yeah, Marina Lostetter. The first is The Helm of Midnight. This is a horror fantasy mystery, and I really liked the first book quite a bit. Gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. The second book I read, didn't love it as much. And then the third book, I just haven't gotten my hands on it, and kind of more time has passed since I read that second book. So I'm just kind of losing steam and losing interest in this series. I will say this author has a dry writing style as well, and with my lack of attention span thing kind of going on, I can't see myself loving the conclusion of this trilogy, but I really like the first one. So this is one that I'm considering also DNFing or trying, depending on my mood. Then we have the Sun Eater series by Christopher Riccio. I read the first book in the series, and it felt like a gigantic prequel for the rest of the series, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I wasn't as emotionally invested in our main character as I wanted to be. He is giving Gary Stu, I'm good at everything, despite not being trained in these things. So it was like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So I was like kind of intrigued to keep going, but I'm not sure. These books are very long. These epic sci-fi stories. I want more epic sci-fi in my life, but I don't know if this is the series for me. And then sadly, we have to put A Man and His Cat by Umi Sakurai on this list as well. I have an issue with manga series in general where I feel like after a certain number of volumes, some manga series, not all, some start recycling plots or extending plot lines that don't really need to exist, that feel like filler to extend the series, and I'm starting to feel that way. I think I've read 12 out of the 13 books in this series so far, and this is still being published. I don't know how many there will ultimately be, but it's the last, I don't know, 4 volumes or so of this series has just felt not as charming and not as quaint, and has felt a little fillery to me. So this is on my maybe DNF series, but I truly do love the first, 8, 9 in this series, so I don't want to give up on it quite yet. 2 series that I will quickly shout out are in a category called Maybe Done, as in I'm not sure if the author is going to keep publishing in these series. If not, I have completed them, but if the author is publishing more, obviously I've not caught up. So I tried to research these authors and what they were writing next, and it's unclear to me. The first one is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buehlman. This is kind of a horror fantasy as well. I read Black Tongue Thief and the prequel, and I'm not sure if there will be more, but I have read both of them. The other series is Vera Wong. Now, do I want a million Vera Wong stories? Yes, I absolutely do. But I went on the author's Instagram, and she talks about how she doesn't plan for additional sequels. It really depends on how successful her books are, whether she continues the series or not. She's not typically a series writer, which is fair enough. If your second book doesn't do well, why write a third? So I totally understand. Do I want more Vera Wong? Absolutely. It's one of my favorite series of all time. So if the author does not return to Vera, I have finished both books in this series. Am I dying for more? Absolutely, but that's what I know about these books for now. Next category we're going to talk about are books that are ongoing, but that I am caught up with. So first we're going to talk about Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I have read 3 out of the however many books in this series there will be. This is a great young adult contemporary paranormal fantasy King Arthurian retelling. Absolutely fabulous. So fun. 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 for every book. Then we have different vibe altogether. The Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Obviously he's taking a break from Stormlight Archive, but I have read the first 5 books of this series as well as the in-between novellas, so I am all caught up. This will ultimately be a 10-book series where each book is over 1,000 pages. And who knows how many novellas he will slot in between those. I am dying for Rock's story. Truly I am. And he is working on that one. So give me, please. Next, one of my favorite series ever that I don't get enough chances to talk about on my channel is The Masquerade Quartet by Seth Dickinson. The first is The Traitor Baru Cormorant, which is a dark, very dark fantasy. I have read 3 out of the 4 books in the series. The 4th one is... who knows when that will come out, if ever. It took him 6 years between books 2 and 3, and it has now been 6 years since the release of book 3. I believe that's... I'll double check that, but I believe that that's correct. So I anticipate waiting at least another 2 years because the 4th and final book will be even longer than the 3rd book in this series, but I am dying, Seth. Please, I want to know what happens to my baby Baru. A romance fantasy series I am all caught up with so far is The Sands of Steel. The first is Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher. This is a series of high fantasy romance standalones set in the same world. We're following the paladins of the Saint of Steel who was killed or died, and their love stories. And I adore T. Kingfisher. I adore her fantasy romance. There will be 7 of these, and I have read 4, and those are all the books that are published currently. Oh my gosh, we have so many more to get through. Then we have The Wraith Kings, the first book being Radiance by Grace Draven. This is supposedly going to be a 6 or 7 book series, and I have read 3, and there are only 3 out. This is an excellent fantasy romance about 2 different species having a politically arranged marriage and falling in love with each other. I adore this. Of course I do, because I'm continuing with the series. Then we have The Great Silence by Richard Swan. I will be continuing this series. I didn't love Grave Empire, but I'm curious to see what Richard Swan does with this. I love The Justice of Kings by this author, which is the Empire of the Wolf trilogy. So I'm gonna give it one more book. I didn't love that first installment, but I might want to reread it and continue on once that is published in 2026. We have a Time of Iron, which is the first book being Long Live Evil by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is a duology, and I think as of posting and filming this video, that will be out at the beginning of 2026, or it's not out yet. I'm unclear on the date there, but this is it's almost like a fantasy satire again. Very silly portal fantasy. And she kind of becomes a villain, and I love that for her. And the romance is kind of fun. Then we have Shadow of the Leviathan by Robert Jackson Bennett. The first book of that series, of course, is The Tainted Cup. There will be a third Anna and Din story coming out in 2026. This is a fantasy mystery, Sherlock and Watson vibe fantasy mystery series. Sorry, I already said that. And I adored book 1. I really liked book 2, and I can't wait for the third one in 2026. Then we have the Kingdom trilogy. The first book is These Burning Stars by Bethany Jacobs. This is an epic sci-fi series I thought was super high stakes, moderately to fast paced throughout, great characters to follow, and very gay. And I loved this a lot. The third book is coming out, I think, in December, and I've only read the first one, so I need to read the second one fairly soon, and then hopefully get my hands on book 3 in December. The Kindred's Curse Saga, by Penn Cole. I have read the first 2 books of this series, and I'm counting the traditionally published dates. I know the first 3 books were independently published, but then the publisher picked it up. So the first 2 books have been traditionally published, and the third one is coming out very soon. And I believe there will be a 4th one, if not more. I'm not sure, though, on that. That's it for ongoing series. Those are all the series I am in the middle of or need to catch up on. I think that's about 22 series, and that is more than enough. I do a pretty good job of, one, finishing series or just giving up on things that I'm not enjoying, because again, I've got so many books to read. I don't want to waste my time and just push through things that I'm not loving. So those are the series I'm in the middle of, and here is a picture. I'm going to scoot way over. Here's a picture of what my tracker currently looks like for my in the middle of series, ongoing series that I need to fill out. And hopefully we'll do another video like this in a year or so, and we can check back in on these numbers. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you stuck to the end, you're a real one, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye!